Questions. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever smiled when you wanted to scream? Said, it's okay when it was actually breaking your heart? Stayed silent just to keep the peace? If yes, questions. Then today's talk is not for your earth, it's for your soul. Because today we're not talking about how to become rude. We're talking about how to become real. Let me tell you something funny. Questions. Once a girl came to me and said, everyone says I'm so nice, but inside I feel so tired. I smiled and said, even your phone needs charging. Questions. Why do you think your heart doesn't? The problem is not that you are nice. The problem is when you become invisible in your own life. There was once a candle in a temple. It burned every day. Questions. For everyone. For people who prayed, for people who cried, for people who didn't even say thank you. One day the candle melted away completely. And you know what the temple caretaker said? Questions. Oh, we'll just light another one. And that's when I realized something powerful. The world loves your light, but it rarely notices when you burn yourself to keep others warm. Questions. Being a nice girl doesn't mean being a silent sacrifice. It means being kind without disappearing. The turning point is 3 minutes. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she realizes. Questions. I am not here to be liked by everyone. I am here to be true to myself. And let me tell you, the day you stop being the nice girl, you don't become cold, you become clear. Questions. You stop explaining your worth. You stop begging for respect. You stop shrinking so others can feel taller. And something magical happens. The right people come closer. The wrong people walk away. Questions. And peace walks in and sits beside you. Story 2, the mango tree. See 3 minutes. There was a mango tree that gave fruit to everyone. People threw stones at it to get mangoes. Questions. Children climbed it and broke its branches. No one ever watered it. One day, the tree stopped giving fruit. People said, questions. This tree has become useless. But the truth was, the tree had finally learned self-respect. You are not meant to be a tree that exists only to be harvested. You are meant to grow, bloom, questions, and enjoy your own shade. What happens when you stop being the nice girl? See 4 minutes. You stop saying yes when your soul is screaming no. You stop answering calls that drain your energy. Questions. You stop apologizing for having boundaries. And let me tell you something beautiful. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks. Not everyone deserves a key to your heart, your time, questions, and your energy. When you stop being the nice girl, you don't lose love. You attract better love. Because confidence is silent. Self-respect is magnetic. Questions. Emotional peak, the mirror moment is 2 minutes. Tonight, when you go home, stand in front of the mirror. Look into your own eyes and ask, have I been kind to myself? Questions. Or only to the world? Because the most important relationship you will ever have is not with your parents, not with your partner. Questions. Not with your friends, it is with the person staring back at you in that mirror. And the day you start honoring her, the whole world will follow. Closing message, 1 minute. So remember this. Questions. You can be soft and strong. You can be kind and powerful. You can be loving and fearless. You don't need to stop being a nice girl. You just need to stop being a forgotten girl in your own life. Questions. Thank you. And never forget, your presence is a gift. Don't give it away for free. Questions. Let me say this gently, because some truths don't need to be shouted. They need to be felt. Being nice should not mean losing yourself. Somewhere along the way, many of us learned a quiet lesson. Questions. We learned that being loved meant being agreeable. That being accepted meant being available. That being good meant putting everyone else first. Questions. Even when our own hearts were standing in a corner, waiting patiently for our attention. Think about your daily life for a moment. Have you ever said, where's questions? I'll do it. When your body was tired and your mind was already full. Have you ever stayed in a conversation, a relationship, questions, or a situation just because you didn't want to hurt someone's feelings, even though it was slowly hurting yours? This is where being nice begins to turn into being invisible. Imagine this. Questions. You are holding a glass of water. One person comes and says, "Can I have a sip?" You give it. Another person comes and asks, and you give it. Another one comes, and you give it again. Questions. At some point, the glass becomes empty. Now, when you look at your own thirst, you realize there is nothing left to drink. This is what happens when you keep giving without ever refilling yourself. Questions. Many people confuse kindness with sacrifice. They think being nice means being endlessly available, endlessly understanding, endlessly forgiving, endlessly adjusting. Questions. But real kindness, true kindness, starts with honesty. And honesty includes being honest with yourself. There is a quiet pain in always being the one who understands, the one who adjusts questions, the one who lets things go. On the outside, people say, "You're so nice." But on the inside, a small voice starts to whisper, "But who is being nice to me?" Let me give you a simple questions, everyday example. Imagine you're with a group of friends deciding where to eat. Someone says, "Let's go here." You don't really like that place, but you smile and say, "It's okay." Questions. I'm fine with anything. The first time it feels small. The second time it feels normal. The 10th time you don't even check what you want anymore. Slowly, without realizing it. Questions. You stop asking yourself a very important question. What do I feel? What do I need? What do I want? And that's how losing yourself doesn't happen in one big moment. Questions. It happens in 1,000 tiny ones. It happens when you laugh at a joke that hurt you. It happens when you stay silent in a moment you should have spoken. Questions. It happens when you apologize for something that was never your fault. You see, the world doesn't take away your voice. You slowly lower it yourself. Questions. Hoping that being quieter will make you more lovable. But here's the truth nobody tells you early enough. The people who truly care about you don't want a smaller version of you. Questions. They want the real one. Being nice should not mean becoming a shadow in your own story. Think about a candle again. A candle is meant to give light, yes. Questions. But if it is placed in a strong wind all the time, it will keep flickering, struggling, losing itself just to stay alive. Sometimes, questions. The kindest thing you can do for a candle is to move it to a safer place, so it can burn steadily and brightly. In the same way, questions. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to step back from people, places, and situations that demand too much and give too little. Let's make this very practical. Questions. You have a friend who only calls when they need something. You pick up every time. You listen. You help. You support. But when you need someone, questions, they are always busy. Being nice tells you to keep understanding. Being honest tells you to notice the pattern. Being nice should not mean teaching people that your time, your energy, questions, and your emotions are unlimited and free. There is a beautiful strength in saying, "I care about you, but I also care about myself." That sentence alone can change your life. Questions. Because when you start valuing yourself, you teach others how to treat you, not through lectures, not through arguments, but through your choices. You choose when to show up. Questions. You choose when to step back. You choose when to speak. You choose when to rest. And slowly something powerful happens. You don't feel guilty for taking care of yourself anymore. Questions. You don't feel selfish for having limits. You don't feel afraid of disappointing others, because you finally stop disappointing yourself. Being nice is beautiful, but being real is powerful. Questions. The world doesn't need more people who are quietly exhausted from trying to please everyone. The world needs people who are kind and whole, people who can give. Questions. Not because they are emptying themselves, but because they are full. So the next time you feel that familiar pressure to say yes when your heart says no, pause for just 1 second. Questions. Put your hand on your chest and ask, if I keep doing this, who am I becoming? Because being nice should add to your life, not erase you from it. Questions. And remember this, you are not here to be a background character in everyone else's story. You are here to live your own, fully, honestly, and bravely. Questions. Let me start with something very simple, something we all recognize from daily life. Imagine you wake up in the morning and before your feet even touch the floor, your phone lights up. Questions. A message from a friend who needs advice. A family member asking for a favor. A colleague reminding you of a task that isn't even yours. You haven't brushed your teeth yet. Questions. You haven't had a sip of water but already you are giving pieces of your energy away. You tell yourself, it's okay, I can handle it. And maybe you can, for a day, for a week, for a while. Questions. But the human heart is not a machine. It doesn't run on endless power. It runs on care, rest, and respect, especially self-respect. Questions. Kindness without boundaries is like pouring water into a cup that has a crack at the bottom. No matter how much you pour, it never feels full. And eventually, your hands get tired from holding the jug. Questions. Many of us grew up believing that being good means being available, that being loving means always being there, that being kind means never saying no. So we become the person everyone comes to. Questions. The emotional support line, the reliable helper, the one who always understands. On the outside, it looks like strength. On the inside, it often feels like exhaustion. Let me give you a small questions. Everyday example. You've had a long day, it is heavy, your body is tired, and all you want is a quiet moment with a cup of tea. Just as you sit down, someone calls. They want to talk. Questions. They want to complain, they want to be heard. And you answer, you listen, you nod, you comfort. An hour passes. When the call ends, the tea is cold, and so is something inside you. Questions. You don't feel angry. You feel empty. This is how burnout begins, not with a big dramatic moment, but with 1,000 tiny sacrifices that no one else ever sees. Questions. Kindness without boundaries teaches people something dangerous. It teaches them that you are always available, that your time has no limits, that your energy has no cost. And slowly, they stop asking questions. Is this a good time for you? They start assuming you'll manage. But here's the part we don't like to admit. Sometimes we train people to treat us this way. Questions. Every time we say yes when we want to say no, we send a quiet message. We say, my needs can wait. We say, you come first. And if we repeat that message long enough, questions, even we start to believe it. Think about a phone battery. If you keep using your phone all day, every day, without charging it, what happens? It doesn't suddenly shut down with a loud announcement. Questions. It starts slowing, freezing, glitching, and then one day it just goes black. Burnout works the same way. First you feel tired, but you ignore it. Then you feel irritated, but you hide it. Then questions. You feel numb, and you don't even remember when you last felt excited about helping someone. And that's the most painful part. When kindness, something that once felt beautiful, questions, starts to feel heavy. Let's look at another daily life scene. You're at work. You finish your tasks on time. A colleague who is always late with their work comes to you and says, questions, can you help me? You're so good at this. The first time you help. The second time you help. The third time it becomes expected. Soon you're doing 2 jobs, yours and theirs. Questions. And when you finally feel overwhelmed and try to say something, they look surprised. Because in their mind, you've always been the one who handles everything. Questions. This is what happens when kindness walks alone, without boundaries to guide it. Boundaries are not a sign of selfishness. They are a sign of self-awareness. They say, I care about you. Questions. But I also care about myself. They say, I want to help, but I also need to breathe. They say, I am human, not an endless resource. Imagine a garden. If people keep walking through it, questions, plucking flowers, stepping on plants, and no one ever puts a small fence around it, what will happen? Soon there will be nothing left to admire. The fence doesn't make the garden unkind. Questions. It protects its beauty. In the same way, your boundaries protect your kindness. Because when you are rested, respected, and emotionally full, the kindness you give comes from abundance. Questions. Not from exhaustion. It feels joyful, not forced. It feels like a gift, not a duty. Let me tell you something important. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Questions. You don't have to solve every problem that is placed in your hands. You don't have to carry every emotional load that comes your way. Sometimes, the most loving response is, I care. Questions. But I don't have the capacity right now. And that sentence doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you an honest one. When you start honoring your limits, questions, something changes in the way you feel inside. You wake up with more energy. You listen with more patience. You give with more warmth. Because you are no longer running on empty. Questions. Kindness without boundaries burns like a candle in a storm, flickering, slowly melting away. But kindness with boundaries burns like a lamp in a quiet room, steady, warm, and lasting. Questions. And remember this, every time you feel guilty for taking a step back, you are not stepping away from being kind. You are stepping toward being whole. Questions. Because the world doesn't need a version of you that is always tired, always drained, always running on the last drop of energy. The world needs a version of you that is alive, present, questions, and strong enough to give without losing yourself in the process. So protect your kindness, protect your energy, protect your heart, not by closing it, but by caring for it. Questions the way you wish others would. Questions. Let me tell you something that sounds simple, but takes a lifetime to truly believe. You don't need approval to have value. Yet, so many of us wake up every day and silently ask the world a question. Questions. Am I enough today? We look for the answer in people's faces, in their messages, in their reactions, in their silence. A smile makes us feel lighter. A frown makes us feel smaller. Questions. A compliment lifts us up. A criticism pulls us down. Without realizing it, we hand over the remote control of our self-worth to everyone around us. Think about a normal day. You post a photo, questions, and then you keep checking your phone. 1 like, 2 likes. You feel good. Then the notifications slow down and suddenly, something inside you feels a little less bright. Questions. Nothing about you changed in those few minutes. Not your heart, not your effort, not your story. But your mood did. Because you were waiting for the world to tell you how valuable you are. Questions. This is how approval quietly becomes a habit. At work, you stay late even when you're exhausted, because you want to be seen as dedicated. In conversations, questions, you agree with opinions you don't fully believe in, because you don't want to stand out. In relationships, you shrink parts of yourself, questions, because you're afraid that being fully you might be too much. And slowly, you start living a life that looks right on the outside, but feels a little wrong on the inside. Questions. Let me give you a small everyday example. Imagine you make a cup of tea for someone. You choose the best leaves, you boil the water carefully, you serve it with a smile. They take a sip and say, questions. It's okay, just 1 sentence. But suddenly you start doubting yourself. You wonder if you did something wrong. You think about it for longer than you should. Questions. But here's the truth, that tea didn't lose its warmth, its effort, or its care just because one person didn't love the taste. In the same way, questions. You don't lose your value just because someone doesn't see it. We often forget that people see us through the lens of their own experiences, expectations, and wounds. Questions. Their opinion is a reflection of their world, not a measurement of your worth. Think about a flower growing by the side of the road. Cars pass by. Some people notice it and smile. Questions. Some people don't even see it. Some people step on it without realizing. But the flower doesn't stop being a flower just because not everyone admired it. Your value is like that. Questions. It exists whether it is recognized or not. But here's where it gets tricky. When you keep looking for approval, you start living for reactions instead of for meaning. Questions. You choose what will be liked instead of what feels right. You say what will be accepted instead of what is true. And one day, questions. You wake up and realize you become very good at being what everyone wants and very distant from who you really are. Let's bring this into a daily life moment. You're in a group discussion. Questions. You have an idea. You feel it in your chest, that small excitement that says, this could be good. But then you look around, you see confident faces, you hear strong voices. Questions. And you swallow your words. You tell yourself, it's okay. It's probably not that important. But that moment stays with you. Questions. Not because your idea was ignored, but because you ignored it first. Every time you silence yourself to fit in, you send yourself a message, my voice is optional. Over time, questions, that message becomes a belief. But imagine what would happen if just once you spoke anyway. Not to impress, not to win, but simply to be honest, even if not everyone agrees. Questions. Even if the room is quiet for a second, you would walk away feeling something powerful, not pride, but peace. The peace of knowing you didn't abandon yourself. Questions. Let me tell you something deeply human. Even the most confident people you admire are not loved by everyone. Even the most successful, kind, and inspiring souls have critics, doubters, questions, and people who misunderstand them. If approval were the price of value, then no one in the world would ever be valuable. So why do we set that impossible rule for ourselves? Here's a gentle truth. Questions. When you know your own worth, approval becomes a bonus, not a necessity. Appreciation feels nice, but absence doesn't break you. Imagine carrying a small light inside you. When others praise you, questions, it's like they add a little glow to that light. But the flame itself doesn't come from them. It comes from how you treat yourself, how you speak to yourself. Questions. How you show up for yourself when no one is watching. Your value is in the effort you put in when no one claps. Your value is in the kindness you show when no one thanks you. Questions. Your value is in the honesty you keep when it would be easier to pretend. And here's the most beautiful part. The moment you stop chasing approval, something shifts in the way you walk, talk, questions, and exist in the world. You become calmer, you become lighter, you become more real. Because you are no longer performing. You are simply being. Questions. So the next time you feel that familiar pull to look outside for validation, pause. Take a deep breath and remind yourself of this simple, powerful truth. Questions. I don't need to be chosen by everyone to be valuable. I don't need to be understood by everyone to be worthy. I don't need to be liked by everyone to matter. Questions. You already matter. In the quiet moments, in the unseen efforts, in the person you are becoming day by day. And when you start believing that, the world doesn't define you anymore. Questions. You walk into it already knowing who you are. Questions. Let me share a simple truth that often gets overlooked in the noise of daily life. The way you treat yourself teaches the world how to treat you. Self-respect is not something you announce. Questions. You don't wear it like a badge or speak about it like a title. You live it quietly in the small choices you make when no one is watching. Questions. And those small choices send a powerful signal to the people around you. Think about how you enter a room. There are some people who don't say much, don't try to impress. Questions. Don't try to be the center of attention. Yet somehow others naturally lean in when they speak. They don't chase connection, they attract it. That invisible pull is often self-respect. Questions. Let's bring this into a daily life moment. Imagine you're waiting for someone who is always late. The first time, you wait patiently. The second time, you tell yourself they probably had a reason. Questions. The third time, you sit there looking at the door, checking your phone, feeling a little smaller each minute. Now imagine something different. The next time you send a calm message. Questions. I value my time, so if you're running very late, let's reschedule. You don't say it with anger. You don't say it with drama. You say it with quiet clarity. Something changes in the air. Questions. That person may adjust, or they may drift away. But either way, something beautiful happens. You stay. Self-respect doesn't guarantee that everyone will like you. Questions. It guarantees that the people who stay in your life are there for the right reasons. We often think attraction is about being interesting, being funny, being helpful, being impressive. Questions. But deeper than all of that, it is something much more powerful, being grounded in who you are. Let me give you another everyday example. Questions. You're in a conversation where someone makes a joke at your expense. Everyone laughs. You feel it in your chest. That small sharp feeling that says, questions. That didn't feel good. You have two choices. You can laugh along and pretend it didn't matter. Or you can smile gently and say, I'm okay with jokes. Questions. But not that one. The room might go quiet for a moment. But what you've done is something incredible. You've shown people where the line is. And people who respect you will remember that line. Questions. People who don't might step back. Either way, you've just filled your circle without raising your voice. This is how self-respect attracts the right people. Not by pulling everyone in. Questions. But by letting the wrong ones fall away. There's a beautiful metaphor for this. Think of a lighthouse by the sea. It doesn't run after ships. It doesn't shout questions. Come here. It simply stands strong and shines. And the ships that are meant to find it do. When you stand in self-respect, you become that light. You stop chasing attention. Questions. You stop begging for effort. You stop settling for half-hearted connections. And in that space, something rare enters your life. People who choose you, not because you are convenient, questions, but because they genuinely value you. Let's talk about relationships for a moment. Have you ever found yourself doing most of the work? Sending the first message, making the plans, questions, keeping the conversation alive, making excuses for the other person's absence. At first it feels like effort, then it starts to feel like imbalance. Now imagine you decide to pause, not to test questions, not to manipulate, just to breathe. You let the other person step forward if they want to. Some will, some won't. And that tells you everything you need to know. Questions. Self-respect is not about pushing people away. It's about giving them the space to show you how much they want to be there. In daily life, this shows up in small, powerful ways. Questions. You don't laugh at things that go against your values. You don't stay silent when something feels deeply wrong. You don't stay where you are constantly overlooked. Questions. And the people who line with that, who appreciate honesty, effort, and clarity, they feel safe around you. They feel seen. They feel respected. Because self-respect is contagious. Questions. When you respect yourself, you give others permission to do the same. Let me tell you something that sounds simple, but changes everything. You don't need to convince the right people to care. Questions. You don't need to chase the right people to stay. You don't need to prove your worth to the right people. They recognize it. They respond to it. They meet you at the level you stand on. Questions. And here's the quiet beauty of it all. When you live with self-respect, your life becomes more peaceful. Not because it's full of people, but because it's full of the right ones. Questions. Conversations feel lighter. Effort feels balanced. Presence feels genuine. You no longer wonder where you stand because the people around you make it clear. Questions. So the next time you feel tempted to lower your standards just to keep someone close, pause. Ask yourself, if I step away from what I deserve, questions. What am I teaching them about me? Because self-respect is not just about how you see yourself. It's about the kind of world you invite into your life. Stand steady. Stand honest. Questions. Stand kind but stand firm. And watch how the right people don't just walk in, they stay. Questions. Let me start with a small moment from everyday life that almost everyone recognizes. Your phone rings. You see the name on the screen. Before you even answer questions, something inside you tightens just a little. Not because you don't care about the person, but because you already know what's coming. A request, a favor, a problem that needs your time. Questions, your energy, your attention, and even before they finish speaking, your mouth is ready with a familiar word. Yes. Not because you truly want to, not because you truly can. Questions, but because you don't want to disappoint. This is where many of us misunderstand love, especially self-love. We think love means always giving, always being available. Questions, always being the one who adjusts. But real love, the kind that lasts, also knows when to pause, when to breathe, and when to protect itself. Saying no is not a rejection of others. Questions. It is an acceptance of yourself. Think about your day for a moment. You wake up with a list in your head, work to finish, messages to reply to, family responsibilities, questions, personal dreams that keep getting pushed to later. And then, somewhere in between, someone asks for your time. You look at the clock. You feel the tiredness in your body. Questions. You remember everything you still need to do, and still you say yes. At first, it feels kind. But by the end of the day, when you finally sit alone in a quiet room, questions, there's a strange feeling inside. Not anger, not sadness, just a soft exhaustion. The kind that comes from being everywhere for everyone, except for yourself. Let me give you a simple questions, daily life example. Imagine you have planned a quiet evening for yourself. Maybe to read, maybe to rest, maybe just to sit in silence after a long day. Just as you settle in, a message pops up. Questions. Can you come out? I need to talk. Your heart wants to rest, your mind wants to help, so you go. Later that night, when you return home, the book is still on the table. The room is still quiet. Questions. But you don't have the energy to enjoy either. You gave your best hours away, and now you are left with what's left of you, saying no. In that moment wouldn't have made you a bad person. Questions. It would have made you an honest one. Self-love is not always soft and comforting. Sometimes it is firm and clear. It says, I care about you, but I also care about myself. It says, questions. I want to help, but I need to rest. It says, not today. And those two words, not today, can be incredibly powerful. Think about how you treat the people you love. Questions. If someone you care about is tired, you tell them to rest. If they are overwhelmed, you tell them to take a break. You don't keep piling things onto their plate. But when it comes to yourself, questions, you often do the opposite. You keep adding, keep stretching, keep pushing, as if your own limits don't deserve the same respect. Let's look at another everyday moment. At work, questions, your schedule is full. Your to-do list is already long. A colleague comes and says, can you take this on too? You're so good at managing things. That sentence feels like a compliment. Questions. But hidden inside it is an extra weight. You hesitate for a second. You know you don't really have the space. But you smile and say yes. That evening you stay late. Dinner gets cold. Questions. Your mind feels heavy. And on the way home you wonder why you're always tired. Sometimes exhaustion is not from doing too much. It's from not saying no enough. Questions. Saying no is how you tell yourself, my time matters, my energy matters, my well-being matters. And here's something gentle but important. Questions. The people who truly care about you will understand your no. They might be disappointed, but they won't disappear. They will respect your honesty. Questions. The ones who only valued what you could give may step back. And that's not a loss, that's clarity. Let me tell you a quiet truth. Every time you say yes to something you don't want, questions, you are saying no to something you do. Maybe it's rest, maybe it's peace, maybe it's a dream you keep postponing. Maybe it's just a moment to breathe. Your high yes has a cost. Questions. Your no has a gift. Imagine your life as a small garden. Your time and energy are the water. If you pour it everywhere, on every plant, on every patch of soil, soon the water runs out. Questions. But if you choose carefully where to pour, the right things grow strong and beautiful. Saying no is choosing where your life grows. It doesn't have to be harsh. It doesn't have to be loud. Questions. It can be gentle, warm, and respectful. I can't right now. Questions. But I hope you understand. I don't have the capacity today. I need some time for myself. These are not selfish sentences. They are self-honest ones. Questions. And something magical happens when you start using them. You begin to feel lighter. Your days feel less rushed. Your yes becomes more meaningful because it comes from choice, not pressure. Questions. People start noticing a change in you, not because you are doing less, but because you are doing what you do with more presence, more energy, more heart. Let me leave you with this image. Questions. Think of yourself as a cup. If you keep pouring into others without ever refilling, one day you will have nothing left to give. But if you take time to fill yourself with rest, with joy, questions, with quiet, with things that make you feel alive, then when you give, it flows naturally, not painfully. So the next time the word IS rises to your lips, pause for just a second. Questions. Place your hand on your heart and ask, am I choosing this out of love or out of fear of disappointing? And then if the answer is fear, let yourself try something brave. Say no. Questions. Not to push the world away, but to invite yourself back in. Because loving yourself is not a luxury. It is the foundation of every other love in your life.